What's up?
Not Bitcoin.
That's true. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I don't know. Technically, I mean, I guess liquidity obviously has a lot to do with it. My tinfoil hat perspective is that there are groups that would like to see Bitcoin lower to accumulate more prior to rates being lowered more, prior to liquidity injections. Like if there is something brewing in the repo markets and in liquidity in general, raising liquidity now for future buys could be a strategy that people are implementing. I just generally feel like when I look at 2026 and the amount of debt that needs to be refinanced, that the powers that be would like to have some cover before they pump liquidity. And having some sort of contraction as cover for liquidity injections, which will eventually drive inflation. But if you have a crisis of some sort, you can everyone's be like, oh, thank you, for putting out the fire, and that the inflation that comes after that will be somewhat overlooked. It gives you sort of a time delay, right? Because the end result of all this money printing is going to be pretty significant inflation, and the government wants that. The government wants to refinance their debt. Corporations want to refinance their debt. And what better way than a crisis to justify lower rates and liquidity injections? So we might see, I get the sense that it's a good time to be very careful and prepare to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible at some point in the near future, whether that's 2 or 3 months, 6 months, I don't know. But I feel like there's going to be a great opportunity on the horizon. And nothing like a false flag, a repo crisis, and I guess what I would be looking for, like, does the S&P start to contract hard now? I mean, gold is sold off, Bitcoin is sold off. These are liquidity driven assets. If the stock market follows, if the dollar strengthens,
dollar just went over one on the Dixie.
This could start to accelerate into a really, really good buying opportunity. So I'm generally like, and I guess this is probably just by being in cycles of Bitcoin. When it goes down, I start to get excited. And when it goes up, I always feel like I don't have enough. And then it goes down and you're like, oh, here's my opportunity. So yeah, I would say, like, start selling stuff, start raising liquidity yourself as well, and figure out where you're going to scrounge every last dollar to get as much Bitcoin as possible before there's no more opportunities. Because this contraction and volatility that we've seen in Bitcoin this whole year, every time there's been a little drop, it's been bought. A little drop has been bought. So there is, and even this drop, like when we broke 106, I thought this thing was going to cascade. I thought Bitcoin was going to just collapse rapidly into 90,000. This has been pretty slow considering what we've seen in the past when Bitcoin just...
And only still 20-30% off of a local top here.
Yeah. So
it's kind of normal for a bull market, if you will.
Right.
Some people think this is the beginning of the bear market.
And maybe we only go down 35%, 35%, and the buying pushes it back up. And maybe we stay in this tight range. I hope not. I'd like to see a real sell-off. I'd like to see people really get flushed and capitulate.
Yeah.
And get like the fear and greed index into single digits.
I mean, isn't this kind of capitulation on an asset of this quality and value in this part of its trajectory?
I looked at the fear and greed index one time today, and it was like 20.
Well, coming down to what, the 50-week moving average?
Yes.
Do we bounce off that, or I guess
probably a little bit, but I kind of would like to see that get broken and get a real flush before I got aggressive about buying more.
Right, really break all trend lines.
Yeah, really
all
just
hopium,
scare the
all
shit out of
longs,
everybody.
leverage longs, whatever.
Yeah.
Speculation.
Right.
Really shake it all out.
Mm-hmm. That's like these are.
It's like if that's what we really need, you probably won't get that.
If you just bought Bitcoin at 100K or 120K because it broke out, and you're like, yeah, we're gonna go to 150, we're gonna go to 180, 220, whatever. Okay, so you bought at the wrong time. Big deal. Bitcoin will be above that price at some point in your horizon. And now's an opportunity to get more than you thought you could ever get in the bull markets, right? So bear markets always end up for hodlers and people that are really on the Bitcoin mission. These are the opportunities that you should be waiting for, that you should be excited about. I know that fights like all your gut instincts, but they pay off. And I every time I've seen the fear and greed index go into single digits, it's been a great opportunity.
I wonder what the Mayer multiple's at. Let's get into the show. Welcome to BitcoinCenter, brought to you by Byte Federal. Point of sale, crypto wallet, and the Bitcoin ATM. Buy Bitcoin, put it in self-custody, and run a node. Yeah. Stamp your seed phrase into metal.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's be real, right? Praising Telegram for launching a Bitcoin wallet. I've always felt like with Haley,
Bitcoin, this digital currency that's out there that people say, oh, it might be the next big thing. What do you think?
I think it's rat poison.
Bitcoin. You never heard of them a few weeks ago? Now everybody's talking about them, but is it a currency?
I don't know. Or is it more like a stock? Or is it a tulip bulb? We're going to debate that.
Stupid.
To me, it smells like Ponzi scheme and the greater fool theory right.
If you do like 5 minutes of freaking research.
Well, okay, thanks for coming to my set talk.
Yes.
Don't buy shitcoins. Oh man, I get that wrong. All right. Bitcoin's recent rally. Do you agree? Is crypto finally dead? Go to the next one.
Matter of fact, they're kind of in the Ethernet. What are they?
There's some rumors that it's this Japanese guy, but others say no, that he's a fake name. It was a pseudonym. I mean, you're literally putting real money onto a system that we don't even know who created it.
It will come to a bad ending.
Is this the most exciting bull run ever?
Not for me. No, it's not.
Welcome to BitcoinCenter, the fast-paced show where the debate is the story.
All right, Cedric, question number 1. Bessent is praising Bitcoin as Trump eyes him for Fed chair. As Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent celebrates Bitcoin's 17 years of flawless uptime, calling it more resilient than ever. Donald Trump publicly mused about making him the next Fed chair. What would a Bessent chairmanship mean?
I mean, he definitely seems like a shrewd character, but I don't think that's any sort of guarantee for. I mean, obviously, I think he wants Bitcoin to go to the moon or whatever. And
who, Trump or Bessent?
Bessent.
Okay,
but I don't think like that.
Why do you think Bessent
well, I
wants
shouldn't
to
say
go
to the moon. I think Bessent is bullish. I think he's building the economy around stable coins, and I think they need Bitcoin price appreciation to continue demand for stable coins and crypto.
Sure,
and the narrative.
Yeah,
and so if Bitcoin goes to zero, that does not help.
That doesn't help. No.
Any of it. Mm-hmm. So they want Bitcoin to eventually go up in price.
Eventually, is
I think it's part of sort of the regime's sort of diet for the balance sheet. But that doesn't mean that just appointing him, chairman of the Federal Reserve, just is like pressing a green button and everything just goes.
I think that's Trump's way of saying like, "Good job, I like this guy."
Yeah, and he's throwing him in the mix and he's testing things. Yeah. But I do want to read the tweet. 17 years after the white paper. This is Bessent. 17 years after the white paper, the Bitcoin network is still operational and more resilient than ever. Bitcoin never shuts down. Senate Dems could learn something from that. So that's some good trolling.
Oh, it's trolling,
right? Sure. So this is all political theater.
Yeah,
but I think it's a big part of their narrative and part of their financial outlook and scheme here. So
I can hear the future tweets. Well, since the Democrats keeping everything shut down, and liquidity's drying up, and now we got this problem in the markets, and blah, 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 blah. Boy, they're just setting the Democrats up for the blame, right, on this one.
But I don't like this sort of politicalization of Bitcoin in terms of being like, I like the Orange Party, and right now it's a little bit of a political football, and that could change in 2 to 4 years in terms of voting. So let's move on here.
It suits their story.
All right, Saifedean calls out Milei's textbook Keynesian nonsense. After quadrupling Argentina's money supply in 2 years, President Milei now defends it as preventing deflation from under-monetization. Is this the moment libertarian reform turns into the same inflationist logic it swore to destroy?
Yeah, look, I mean, Saifedean's right, but I don't think that you can expect any politician to take a deflationary posture or pursue a deflationary posture or policy. Because if you're in the government and you work for the government and your role is to manage the government, then inflation is what you need to devalue the debt. The greater the inflation, the less valuable your debt is. And now he's fully in bed, right, with the U.S. financial industrial complex. He is a district manager for the U.S. And so he's all set on following their protocol, which is we're going to make stuff cheap here. We're going to inflate our monetary system. You can buy our assets. You can extract our minerals. And I'm good, right? I'm your buddy, right? Like you're going to take care of me, right? So he's playing political games for
but he's also, it seems like he's just reading lines. Sure. And he's playing almost like different roles at different times within the
Sounds
timeline.
like a politician.
Totally.
Yeah.
But he politicked on not being that way.
Wait a minute.
And he politicked on Austrian economics.
Yes.
So it's either like massive trolling, sort of like demoralization campaign as well. Because it's do you know what I mean?
Argentina, you mean is totally demoralized for.
Well, I think this is demoralizing decades. Though, like the continuation of.
But he just
won.
He said one. He won by a landslide.
Yeah.
So what's happening in Argentina is exactly what's happened here in the United States. People
continues to happen in the United States.
For
this is more extreme though.
The popular figure, and they vote for the guy who says the right things, and they don't really think about the actual outcomes. Right.
No, but also the politicians never, both sides, whatever, don't do the things they
never
are voted in to do.
Never.
So it's even hard to then measure the thing you voted for, whether it.
These guys, anybody gets in power, and they are going to do what benefits them, maintaining power, and what benefits the government, and then the people are the last ones that get. They get what falls off the plate.
Yeah.
So I mean.
So I'm writing a Substack. I think what people should think about is we don't have an IPO for Bitcoin, but this last 4 months to me feels like sourcing the pricing of the IPO, where the original investors are getting out of large chunks. Now, why is there ever an IPO? For monetization. If someone has 9 billion in Bitcoin, I mean, I think they should diversify a little bit. If it was related to China, guess what China has now that they haven't had since 2014, 15? A bull market in stocks. Guess what else people have? Well, they have the chance to invest in AI. AI is a 10-bagger in many cases. You've been able to do it in the public markets. So I think at some point, Bitcoin becomes a boring asset to people who are looking for 3-baggers, 4-baggers, 5-baggers. It becomes a diversification. So I think this is just a distribution of a few massive holders. And the weaknesses I have heard about Bitcoin as I've gotten into it from institutions, it's too volatile. Not too volatile anymore. We've taken the implied volatility and the actual realized volatility down to 30 and below in some cases. So the vols come down. Okay, what's the next thing? Well, it's too concentrated in ownership. I mean, I've gone through the numbers. When you add Satoshi's wallet, you add the other whales, you're talking about a third of it has been owned by not many people. I think like 10,000 is the number I heard. Regardless of what the right answer is, every month the Bitcoin IBIT outstanding shares goes up. It's up again this month, even though the price is down. So I think everyone that's depressed has actually become entitled. I think they think it's a risk asset. Oh, there's another one. This is just a risk asset. Okay, well, it's not going up with the NASDAQ, so that's good. Lower correlation. Well, it's just digital gold. Well, it's not going up with gold. So guess what? In portfolio theory, for everyone who hasn't bought any yet, I think with your stocks, with your gold, with your bonds, now there's every argument to make. It's lower volatility now, lower correlation with the other traditional asset class, diversification from gold. I think this thing is going to move higher. I was wrong about where I thought we'd be at this point. It's still up for the year. I think once this consolidation is done and we're through the IPO process and the fundamentals take over, next year, once we get through clarity and the beginning of tokenization and the stories of Zelle and everything along those lines, I think we're going to have an acceleration.
All right. I don't need to regurgitate the question, but do you think he's right in regards to this becoming a low volatility, maybe longer, steadier climb? Is the
well, he also makes a comparison to sort of the Facebook IPO and the Amazon IPO.
Yeah.
And sort of insiders.
I don't buy the IPO.
Well, you sort of have a concentration of holders during, pre-IPO.
Yeah.
And what he's saying now in the Bitcoin market is you finally have tremendous liquidity. All the original concentrated holders are going to sell into a bull market, so there's actually a continuous bid, and the market's actually deep enough that if you had 100 million in 2019 or $1 billion in 2019, you'd move the market if you sold.
Okay, but
so now you see slow. This is his argument. That's all I'm trying to say.
I know.
And I think it rationalizes the sideways chop solidation.
Sure.
And it kind of speaks to,
I agree to that.
Yeah. And well, he speaks to sort of like when you looked at the Facebook IPO, there was a bull market around Facebook for 2 years after the IPO, but the stock went sideways in what should have been a bullish time for Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all the original
selling. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
You get it. So, and there's positive things about distribution, and it becomes harder for each individual to have, to be able to move markets and things like that. So it's an interesting report. I think it's a great rational outlook. He may be right. What's happening?
But why if you had $1 billion in Bitcoin plus,
yeah,
and you wanted to diversify, why would you not borrow just 10% of your portfolio? Diversify. Bitcoin goes up again, borrow another 10%, diversify more.
Yeah. Well, you're still concentrating your risk to some extent, depending on how you structure that loan and that leverage. You're still tied into one thing.
Sure.
Some people don't necessarily.
But there's like the case to be made, right?
If you have 10 billion in Bitcoin, and you diversify out 2 to 8 billion of it, and you're still still skin in the game. And you have to remember, a lot of these early holders weren't in it because they believed in.
Well,
Bitcoin is the sole asset.
You said that. No,
they said maybe they mined a lot as a hobby. Maybe they got coins locked in at Silk Road. Lots of reasons people got in early, and have held through so much.
But
Mount Gox, China bans.
In my opinion, if you did serious research about the reset that is occurring currently, this is a global reset, restructuring of trade, restructuring of power, restructuring of currencies, debt, the whole ball of wax, it would inform you that gold and Bitcoin are probably the two best assets to own for the next decade.
Yeah.
And then you're going to dump all these assets on the market, however you can dump them and diversify at the wrong time. So that to me says, so we're assuming that the biggest Bitcoin holders are guys that don't believe in Bitcoin.
You're making the sort of the notion that they wanted to hold this long, and maybe they've just been looking for their exit all along.
Maybe,
and they've able finally with the size of their stack, they're able to actually.
The other thing I don't like about I don't agree with this is that if that's the case, you wanted to diversify your Bitcoin holdings because you're not really a Bitcoiner. You just happen to have a lot of Bitcoin.
Right.
I totally forgot where I was going to go with this.
I'm trying to run through his piece here to see if I could sort of get his answer to that question. He speaks about it, sort of a passing of the torch.
Oh, now I know what I was going to say. So if you wanted, if you're going to do this, what's the benefit of dumping Bitcoin, even if it's any percentage of your holdings, into the hands of bag holders that are not not self-custody people. They're not pro Bitcoin. Like Wall Street, in my mind, wants a pet rock. They want digital gold.
Sure.
Bitcoiners want to change the entire financial system. And this is, I guess, where I maybe this is just my hatred of this idea that we're giving control of a lot of Bitcoin to institutions.
I think you have to look at it maybe more as Bitcoin is like a roller coaster and a really fucking hard ride. And a lot of these people who have been on longer probably than you and I have been on the ride a long time. And even the best, even Michael Jordan retires.
Right.
And I think if you're like worth 10 billion and you might not want to go back to down to 3 billion.
I understand that.
I'm not saying I understand that. I'm saying they understand that because they're there.
But what I don't like is that let's liquidate our Bitcoin by putting it in an ETF. Let's liquidate our Bitcoin by putting it into a treasury company. Let's liquidate our Bitcoin by doing these other things that give control of that Bitcoin to people that are not necessarily Bitcoiners.
I hear what you're saying.
That is, to me, a longer term risk to the project. And so I don't mind people selling if they diversifying, but
Dr. Adam Back is a
it
case study in public of someone who's been either lending or selling his Bitcoin to Bitcoin treasury companies, right?
Yeah.
So then sell it in MNAV to Bitcoiners and dilute their purchasing power.
In my mind,
right? And so it's like, think about, he had all the reason to have aligned incentives in all of it.
Yes.
And you're not seeing it play out that way.
No,
he's giving up control of his Bitcoin, whether through sale or lease.
That's not.
So I'm saying he's indicative of longtime bag holders in a way. Look,
you can't. Whatever. Everybody's going to do whatever they're going to do, and they're free to do whatever they want to do.
Yes.
But
and I think you're seeing that happen.
I am just dismayed by.
I hear you. I'm
more
with
and
you.
more institutions holding more and more coins. I would rather see the price drop, and have more individuals come in and own their own Bitcoin and hold it.
I'm with you. I think for whatever reason, the marketing plan did not get that across to the whole world in the first 16 to 17 years, and it's might not get easier to get that pitch across.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that everyone's beyond reproach, but.
Yeah, we need to have a core. We need to have a core group that's.
Well, we need to smash core, Bitcoin core, shitcoin core.
Bitcoin, if it were money, would be base money. It's not a claim or an IOU, which is what inside money, to use the expression Bob used, is. So Bitcoin can't be anything but a base money if it's money at all. Whether it's money at all depends on how widely used it is as a medium of exchange. So then the question that grows out of that is, can you have a fractional reserve banking system develop on top of a Bitcoin standard? And the answer is, in principle, you can. Whether the regulators would ever allow such a thing, of course, I doubt it very.
All right, I'm actually going to go back to Jordi Visser's report because I found the answer. His answer.
Okay.
The psychology of the original holder. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who mined Bitcoin in 2010 or bought it at 100 or even 1,000. You've held through Mt. Gox, through China bans multiple times, through the 2018 bear market, through COVID, through regulatory uncertainty, through mainstream media calling it a scam for over a decade. You believed when almost no one else did. You took the risk and you won. Bitcoin succeeded beyond almost anyone's wildest expectations. But now what? You're sitting on generational wealth. Life circumstances change. Maybe you're approaching retirement. Maybe you have kids in college. Maybe you want to diversify into AI or buy a Jeff Bezos-sized yacht, start a business, or simply enjoy the fruits of your patience. And for the first time ever, you can actually exit your position without destroying the market. That's new. For years, the liquidity simply didn't exist. Try selling 100 million of Bitcoin in 2015, you'd crater the price. Try selling 1 billion Bitcoin in 2019, same problem. The market couldn't absorb it. But now, ETFs are providing institutional bid. Major companies hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Sovereign wealth funds are getting involved. The market has finally matured to the point where early holders can exit significant positions without causing chaos. And here's the crucial insight. They're doing it during a risk-on environment specifically because that's when buyers have capital. When stocks are rallying, when confidence is high, when liquidity is abundant, that's the optimal time to distribute. Selling into fear would crater Bitcoin. Selling into strength elsewhere. That's just smart business. This is what the OG whales have been waiting for. Not price, price they've had, liquidity, market depth, the ability to actually exit. The mission is accomplished. Bitcoin proved itself. Now comes the reward. And I think you could say before, I would think you would say, well, Jordi, she's definitely TradFi. He bridges the gap here. I think he does a great job. But like, that's a very TradFi view. But that's probably where their world and their like all the voices around them are probably, and I'm not saying that these weren't ballers back then and had balls and tons of chutzpah, but their lives have probably changed or however, and he's just guessing here, but like it's possible. I don't know.
It's possible.
And that doesn't mean that they're selling to zero.
I would love to see somebody.
It doesn't mean they're not borrowing against.
I would love to see somebody create an OTC desk that just takes that $9 billion and just liquidates it to plebs. Give it to plebs.
Yeah,
we've got to I don't know.
Well, then you're eliminating buyers, and that's that's price pressure. George Selgin.
Yes,
Bitcoin's fixed supply isn't the holy grail. Oh, that's weird. Economist George Selgin argues that Bitcoiners are wrong to think infinite divisibility makes a fixed money supply immune to macro problems, warning that when money demand rises faster than prices can adjust, economies can stall. Is it time for Bitcoiners to expand their thinking from full reserve banking toward Selgin's free banking model, where Bitcoin acts as base money and market-issued credit flexibility meets short-term demand without central bank bailouts?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my mind, this is TradFi economist talk for I want this to be a pet rock like gold. And we want it to support the dollar. We want it to support fractional reserve banking. Bitcoin was built to destroy fractional reserve banking. Bitcoin was built to take on the central bank. Bitcoin was built to allow you to bank yourself, right? That's the whole theory. And I think TradFi economists have a hard time either crushing their entire lifetime of belief and work to that something could work better than the model that they supported and understood and have built their entire career on. And he said that in that quote. He said, like, yeah, we could build a fractional reserve system on top of Bitcoin. Like they're just applying, and I'm not taking anything away from his he knows more about economics than I've forgotten, right? Like but I think if you were to take the view of a fully reserved financial system on a Bitcoin standard, then you could, once you start to grok that, then you could start to look at what Jeff Booth says and how he describes a deflationary economy that's prosperous for humanity, right? That drives abundance for humanity. Now that flies in the face of the model we're in now, where all the wealth flows to the top. All the wealth flows to the 1% that are in bed with the financial system. And so I think that breaks their models. It breaks, they can't imagine it, or they don't want to believe it.
They don't want to.
Yeah, they don't want to believe it, right?
Yeah.
So
I think they've heard the stories.
Right.
They say that's the story to me.
This also is why I get so frustrated with everybody giving their Bitcoin to Wall Street or just buying the ETF and not having self-custody. They're missing the original context.
All of it. I think this year has been an inflection point on that.
Oh,
front.
yeah, huge.
Beyond sort of this IPO moment, it's sort of what you're saying is sort of the ethos is being consumed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's all about,
and it's not being propagated further.
No, it's all about a thing that I can buy that goes up forever.
Right.
That's like an investor's wet dream, right? I used to always say to my clients when I was managing money for individual clients, I know you just want the thing that goes up, right? Because that's really all they want. Like that thing went up. How come I didn't own it? They didn't want to talk about.
Yeah, sure, right. Because I mean,
any of the like bigger structural issues that really would drive wealth.
Right.
They just, I want the thing that goes up.
Right.
And no understanding of the internal workings of the system. So,
which goes back to sort of water your weeds and cut your flowers.
Yeah.
So it's like sell something I did well on, and go buy that other thing I have no faith and conviction in, and go find the next thing, and I'll buy some, and it ends up being a weed, whatever. Let's move on.
All right. I'm asking you a question now. HRF.
Yep.
The quantum threat to Bitcoin. The Human Rights Foundation new report outlines both the technical and moral roadmap for preparing Bitcoin against future quantum attacks. Saying it will require years of sustained research. Does this mark the start of a coordinated global effort to make Bitcoin post-quantum secure?
Yeah, so I think it's quite interesting that the quantum threat is being rolled out, if you will, around sort of the implementation wars. Right. So if you go through these key takeaways, the first one is like 1.7 million Bitcoin and very early addresses, right? So these are the most potential. These are like dormant or maybe lost, right? So they're really vulnerable to the long range quantum attacks. I don't know the difference between short and long. There's an additional 4.5 million Bitcoin are vulnerable to the long range quantum attacks, but owners would be able to move them or secure them, right? So we can kind of right. And then there's short range quantum attacks could enable the theft of Bitcoin during transactions while public keys are exposed. So maybe actually short range like these sort of these attacks that kind of like why you're trying to move the keys to the secure addresses, right? Researchers are working to solve for both the short and long range attacks. Okay, this is where it gets spicy. One proposed solution is to upgrade Bitcoin to include a quantum secure address type, which would protect anyone able to move their coins. Another proposal addresses what to do with the coins that no one can or is willing to move. Burn them so that thieves cannot plunder them, but sacrifice Bitcoin's neutrality in the process. And then there's another. So let's discuss that one in a second. So, but there's also quantum resistant transactions would be significantly larger in data size than existing ones. So this could dramatically increase the size of the blockchain, which is already facing scaling challenges.
Okay.
Right. So it's like Knott's first core, I think, is this sort of false dichotomy, probably, right? But we do need to figure out what to do with implementation and core and go move forward and governance. But then you have like what could be a real threat or maybe is a real threat. I don't know how much time we have before quantum comes. But then you get into this like if people aren't willing to move their coins. That's a weird so there was if no one can, like coins that are lost or people died or no one or they don't want to move and protect their coins, we're going to secure them for this is where and
this is when you start to question people that have been
and the solution seems to has its own scaling problems. I haven't heard why it has to be a larger transaction or anything, but so then
so many things there that are
slippery slopes and problems. But if this is to the extent that this is a threat or any sort of we need to move fast or anything, we don't really have the governance or sort of way to achieve consensus on these bigger issues right now.
Well, I think this is there's so many things that come to mind. Number one, core nuts. Why are we battling so hard about this op return debate as opposed to solving real problems?
Right.
We could have just done, okay, we'll move it up to 160, end of discussion. Let's all focus on the real threats to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree.
If you propose a solution to a real threat, I think you'll get consensus on making the change. Number two, part of me says if somebody's not willing to move their coins and those coins get stolen,
that's fine.
That's Bitcoin.
That's how it works.
Bitcoin
People
works.
shouldn't intervene.
The coins aren't gone. Right. The coins aren't gone.
Yeah.
They're
I don't think how do you determine which ones can and can't be, and who's willing and won't.
Right.
So all of them should not be sort of scooped up, protected.
Right.
And I think that all this assumes that some white hat effort is going to beat the black hats.
Yeah.
And I would not bet on that.
No.
I would bet on the black hats to figure out how to move things before you can secure them.
I mean, there's a giant reward out there for somebody that can break it.
Yeah.
And I'm
but the
bottom line is, I think, is that Bitcoin, if it's this giant monetary network, and if we have enough people with enough wealth stored in this protocol, we should come together to figure out what the solution should be. And that's the kind of problems we should be working on at the core developer level. Not worried about can we fit a JPEG in there or an image. And
this is where maybe AI helps us.
Maybe.
Because I think, you start looking at 600,000-700,000 lines of code,
but also,
and it's beyond any one human's ability to augment the code in a way that they could understand second and third order effects.
Yeah. I also
and it's almost beyond
people,
the ability, any one person's ability to review.
I also don't want people to feel like, oh my God, this is eminent.
Well, maybe that's why, maybe the price, maybe for this is, Start 9. I don't know if this is in the show, but Start 9 was like, we have never sold a sat before from our treasury, but at 117K, when we saw that there's a high chance of a soft fork, we sold some sats for the first time.
Interesting.
And I do think that
a soft fork, what, like that spooked them?
Maybe I'm misspeaking. Maybe they thought, but I think it was a soft fork. Well, let's move on. But the point is, I could see that the price is reflecting this a little bit.
Yeah,
and I
get, but you get like massive range between when this threat is going to be real, and so I don't even know that we really know the truth about that.
No, we don't. But we don't. That's why I wouldn't be in a rush to move anyone's coins who can't or won't.
Like this isn't. I don't think people should be afraid.
But that's not a very Bitcoiny, I think, like solution or suggestion to move other people's coins.
No,
or to burn them, or
just the
redistribute
fact that
them, or anything.
People even consider that.
Yeah. Now that was the Human Rights Foundation. I'm just noting that. But all right, let's move on to the lightning round here. Is it like
the resentment of work comes from the feeling that it is both necessary and yet somehow pointless? It's like you don't have a choice to do it. You have to do it because you'll starve and die if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And yet doing it doesn't achieve anything. It's like you're on the treadmill. You're on the fiat treadmill. This is a Bitcoin meme, right? Or is it the hamster wheel? I forget. Is it? You get what I mean, right? Like you can't get off it, right? It's like Sisyphean.
Yeah.
It's perfectly legitimate to relate to this and to be angry about it. A good way to inoculate yourself from this, assuming you want to, is to see Bitcoin as savings. Because for a number of reasons. I mean, one is if you're clear about it being savings and you've thought seriously about what that means, you won't mistake it for an investment because that's something else. These are or at least should be distinct concepts. Shitcoins are clearly not savings. They're not even really investments. They're just gambling. And I think that's also more cleanly addressing what the kind of culture of resentment around fiat work has destroyed in the first place, right? It's, again, exactly as you were saying, it's not that work is bad. Work is good. Work is fundamentally very, very good. It's that working without the ability to transform that into savings is bad.
What do you think?
I think Alan Farrington's awesome.
Do you think Bitcoin educators should lean harder into framing this sort of framing instead of number go up?
I do. So like the fiat treadmill or the hamster wheel, so to speak. I think all of us at one point in our lives, unless you're in that 1% category, have felt that. And I definitely relate to that. And
I think maybe there's some people who aren't in the 1% who enjoy what they do.
Sure.
They don't.
No, I'm not.
They can't
saying
afford
that.
to save at it. But
what I'm getting at is that I think a lot of us over time have made decisions on, I'll take this job because I will get paid more, as opposed to I will pursue this route because that's what I'm really passionate for.
Right.
And so when you're making those decisions, you're sort of diverging from your real purpose and your real mission in life for fiat gains. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of us realized about Bitcoin early on, is that, holy smokes, this is my opportunity to create abundance in a way that will allow me to eventually pursue my passions. And, you go back to like the history books and you read about the golden age, right? And how people could be endowed with a small percentage of gold. Maybe they inherited it from their family, but that would give them a base level of living that would allow them to pursue their passions, right? This is when the greatest art was created, the greatest music was created, the greatest buildings were built, right? And we, as a Bitcoiner, I'm hopeful that we can return to that kind of human experience, but that in a world that requires you to pay to be alive, you need to beat inflation. And that inflationary hamster wheel is going to be spinning so fast over the next decade that if you're not aggressively saving in Bitcoin, how will you ever get off that hamster wheel? And I think this is some of the nihilism that a lot of the millennials and Gen Z feels. And there's such a wide chasm between understanding the financial system that you're taught and understanding history that you're taught versus true history, true the true structure of the financial system that impoverishes you over time versus opting out into a Bitcoin standard and saving in Bitcoin to build prosperity and wealth for you and your family. And it's not it's a long-term solution, right? It's not a trade. You don't buy Bitcoin, sell it, and all of a sudden you're wealthy, right? It's not a shit coin that you got lucky and you bought for a penny and now it's trading at $100. This is a long-term, highly probable solution to your problem, but it takes you having that vision, that understanding and belief so that you save in Bitcoin continually until you reach that point. And you might not be doing it for yourself. You might be doing it for future generations, your children, your grandchildren, whatever you can do. But once you grok that, everything that Alan is saying makes sense. And that is your way out, right? This is these people that we talked about earlier selling 9 billion in Bitcoin, right? They've released themselves from the hamster wheel. And so there's a trajectory here for you to achieve that, but you have to follow the program. You have to buy the Bitcoin, you have to save it, you have to hold it, and you have to keep doing it. So I agree with everything Alan is saying.
Yeah, he's brilliant. All right, let's move on to the next one here.
All right. So October flops. Bitcoin's supposed October streak finally fizzled, dropping 7%. Probably more now since this question's been written. Fed officials struck a hawkish tone. Was the myth of October rallies just a myth, or did a pullback simply, or was a pullback simply overdue?
I mean, it was a myth in the sense that it was a limited sample size of Octobers that we're dealing with here,
right.
You know, and I just think it's irrelevant. I don't think this is something we should dwell on here. October and But I mean, obviously it went down, and October didn't exist. I'm not saying that we shouldn't dwell on it, like, oh, it didn't happen. But I just don't think it was something that's guaranteed because it happened in the past.
Yeah, we have,
and I think it was a lot of hopium. I mean, just
we have like 3-4 year cycles to look back at.
Exactly,
and that's a very tiny sample set, like you said.
Even 16 or 17 Octobers is not a big sample set.
No, it's not.
It's not predictive or anything like that.
Yeah. I think that was maybe that was driven by halvings when the halvings were big, but now we have much bigger players in the market. We have much bigger buyers and sellers. It's a totally different animal.
Let's move on to the next one here. Jamie Dimon.
Crypto at one point, he was still skeptical.
I've gotten away with no damage so far. Crypto is real. If you mean blockchain, stable coins, you have a JP Morgan deposit coin, you can move stuff, smart contracts are real, all that stuff is real. It will be used by all of us to facilitate, better transactions and customer service.
I mean, that's just Jamie being Jamie. And, he's always been JP Morgan's always been a crypto supporter with ETH.
Yeah.
He's just never really talked about it, or they never really talked about them being part of the origin of ETH. So
I wonder how much of that was driven by him sitting next to Larry Fink.
In terms of
what I mean is, like, when he's on his own, he's like,
sure, and then he's got to be tempered because
and then he's sitting there with like the largest ETF, the most successful ETF in history.
On. He's the authorized provider on.
Yes,
or participant.
Right. So and we do know JP Morgan was basically instrumental in developing a lot of the ETH code, a lot of the smart contract code, and they sold it all to Consensus.
Yeah.
Right. So, the stable coin that they created was on Ethereum. So, yeah. Is he saying he's saying this now because Wall Street is now behind this, and Wall Street now wants to make money with this.
Yeah. So, and he's still very careful to keep it on the crypto side, the stablecoin side.
Yes. He's not like,
he'll make money on the back end with Bitcoin in the back office, but he's not going to. He knows,
right?
But he's known all along, and he's Jamie the gangster. Let's move on.
Jamie the mafia.
All right, there's another one. You could.
All right, Plan B sees bullish RSI. Chart Guru, that's questionable. Chart Guru Plan B pointed out Bitcoin's monthly RSI at 66, signaling sustained uptrend. Is following such technical signals still a smart bull play, or are these old school indicators giving a false sense of security? What's up with the... What?
I mean, it's all hocus pocus. Okay.
Hocus pocus.
Historically, RSI levels between 60 and 70 have often preceded periods of gradual price appreciation, especially when accompanied by strengthening fundamentals such as institutional inflows and macroeconomic easing expectations. This reading means nothing to me. I think we just move on.
Well, I mean, what's funny about this, or what's interesting about this, is that he's wrong again.
Yeah, so
because it dropped after this,
right? So and this was written a few days ago. So let's just move on. Let's not give it a lot of air.
Good job. Plan B.
So here, I'll read it. Lawrence Lepard, Powell's trapped, and the printing has begun. Lawrence Lepard says Powell's nervous body language screams trapped as Fed officials hint at renewed asset buying, calling it the big print. Is Lepard right that the Fed just flinched?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, I think Larry will be right in the long run, and his thesis will be correct in the long run. I just still believe that there is an incentive to drop the market now.
Right. So do you think Powell's actually nervous about the moves he has to perform and execute? Or maybe he's nervous about how those moves that he has no qualm, or like he knows he has to do for whatever their plan is, but just how he's received and how he's perceived. There's a difference there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's nervous about the moves they're taking. I don't think he's nervous about what happens to the economy.
Good Fed chairman.
Yeah, he wants to be seen well.
He wants to be seen well, and he doesn't want to just drop interest rates and pump the economy full of liquidity and create inflation unless there's a big crisis. Right. So we'll put 29 billion in the repo. We'll put a little bit here. We'll put a little bit there. We'll make things.
But do you think his job actually makes him nervous? I don't mean the communications part of it. Because I can see anyone, you got to go up and speak publicly. Do you think he's nervous about speaking, or do you think he's nervous about what they did before he spoke or he speaks? I don't think he's nervous about any of the moves they're taking, whether they work or not. I mean, I don't think he's...
Yeah, the reality of all of this is that the Federal Reserve is owned by banks, and their main concern is supporting the banking system.
So I think they made their decision probably behind the scenes.
I think it sounds good to like do things for inflation and do things for employment. I think that's a nice
it's really about the banks and the plumbing,
but it's
and
really
the
about the banks and the plumbing and liquidity. And if
so he might be nervous. Like they might take moves that are unpopular, and he's nervous about how that's received. But I don't think he's nervous about the move they took. Do you get what I'm saying? I think he's like, this is what we got to do in the room, and then they got to come out. He's like, oh shit, I got to tell them, and they might throw apples at me.
Yeah,
and that sucks. I don't want to be the guy that has apples on me. But he's not. I don't think he has questions about what he's doing.
If you work, the banks rely on the treasuries surviving.
Right.
Fractional reserve banking relies on the treasuries surviving.
Right.
Massive inflation will devalue the treasuries, but his reputation will be crushed. So if they can engineer a decline that then allows him to bail out the economy, right? We didn't see this coming. Like it wouldn't surprise me if there's a false flag between now and when rates go down lower.
And you mean like with banking or war?
I don't know.
Not war, but
I don't know wherever it's coming from, right? Like what a great scenario for him and the Treasury and all the powers that be if all of a sudden there was a terrorist attack on energy infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean,
right. And now, oh gosh, we have no choice. We have to print, we have to create stimulus, we have to do everything we can to rebuild this as fast as possible because everything's going to collapse if we don't. Then it's all off the table. It's like, yeah, we'll take rates back to zero. We're gonna support nuclear. Military is going to put nuclear reactors all over on trailers all over the country to power back up the grid. We're gonna build infrastructure like you've never seen before. Massive stimulus.
So I think it's gonna be a slower crumble. I think it's gonna be a slower crumble,
maybe
with no help coming for a long time.
Well, okay, I could see that scenario as well.
A lot of, and what will look like
but
inept.
if you have high interest rates and you have a high dollar going into
things will
refinancing
trend with the rates lower, but slowly.
They will destroy the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Like the Treasury will not be able to function.
All right, let's see.
And I don't think that's in the bank's interest.
Let's move on to the next one. This is an important one.
All right. U.S. seeks, the U.S. seeks maximum sentence for the Samurai wallet developers. As the U.S. government pushes for maximum 5-year sentence against Samurai wallets, excuse me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Rodriguez and William Hill, developers who say they built privacy tools to make Bitcoin work as intended, is financial privacy itself now being treated as a crime in American courts?
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. This is why we talked about...
This is really bad.
Yes.
So this is why no one's working on anything but stable coins and real world assets and tokenize this on layer 1 or layer 2.
If you're a Bitcoiner,
because they don't want the government coming after them like this. And this is weird. This is not weird, but they're kind of really going after intent. Like they are saying that the founders of this Samurai wallet intended for this to be used by criminals.
That's an excuse.
You could kind of, and they got them to admit, and I'm not saying the admission is an admission of guilt. They got them to say, I have regrets around how we marketed it. Because the hint is, they marketed it towards black market dealers or money launderers or anything like this, right?
They did?
No, I'm not saying they did. I'm saying they got them to say they did. They got the founders as part of their plea deal, to say.
Okay, plea deals are
right. But I'm saying so they got them to say what they needed them to say, though.
Yeah.
But this is all about intent. This is not about a money transmission license.
Like this is not about. Got to tell people that, like, if you're a Bitcoiner, you have to realize that you are a massive threat to the status quo.
They're saying that the developers laundered at least $237 million in proceeds from drug trafficking, darknet marketplaces, cyber intrusions, frauds, murder for hire schemes, and a child pornography website. Now, I think something like Samurai should sit between most people and their exchanges and all of these things, right? Like, I think this technology should sort of be built into everything we're doing in the back end.
Are dollars in your pocket anonymous?
So they made all these arguments, but they lost.
They were making digital,
but they lost the arguments.
Okay, but anybody who gives the
defendant's
plea deal,
crimes,
that plea deal is a manipulation.
The defendant's crimes are not predicated on a regulatory lapse, but on the defendant's unambiguous desire, intent, and actions taken to help criminals engage in money laundering and sanctions evasions through Samurai. The conspiracy to commit sanctions evasion charge, which too carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, was also dropped.
So they can sanction Russia
in exchange for the developer's guilty plea.
They can sanction
Russia. So they'll get
Russia.
5 years, these guys.
They can steal Russian assets. They can sanction Russia. They can recover coins, not give them to anybody. What I'm getting at is it's the...
They got in trouble for bragging
what's good for the government
good
is not good for us. The government wants private transactions. The Bank of International Settlements wants private transactions. The Federal Reserve wants private transactions. They don't. The CIA, they want private transactions. The IMF wants a private transaction. Anybody who's in a powerful position doesn't want you to know what they're spending their money on.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
They'll
use real Bitcoin.
You get dollars in your pocket, or you get a wallet that has privacy tools in it, and you're a criminal. So this is the.
I think this is important. At another point, the memorandum quotes a Twitter exchange between Rodriguez and a Samurai wallet user, citing Samurai's focus on censorship resistance, highlighting that Rodriguez referred to Bitcoin as black market money. I mean, they're taking ex posts the quips. People are saying like a euphemism, an analogy. I mean, this is
Bitcoin has always been black market money.
Francis says we have to move on, but this is I think this is really bad. You couldn't use the cypherpunk.
It's a very scary precedent because this leads to the elimination. This leads to the elimination of non-custodial wallets in the United States. If that becomes a crime, that is.
Well, so I think that's on the back burner for now. I think that's coming.
We've lost.
I think that's
lost
the plot.
The plot.
Yeah. And we've gone. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. All right.
I want MSTR to stand for monster. We want to create a monster company. We don't want to careen toward the future with an advantage. We don't want to be the talented fighter, that kind of wins and loses and mostly wins and is a little bit sloppy and undisciplined. We want to create the digital credit instruments that are 2 to 4 times better than everything in the $300 trillion market. And we want to eat the world, right? And we want to sell $100 billion of them. And after we sell 10 billion, then 20 billion, then 40 billion, then 80 billion. When people go, well, aren't you levered? We want to say, well, actually our leverage is 0. Huh? What? Wait, what? We have 30% amplification, but we don't have 100 billion of debt. We have 100 billion of equity that happens to actually amplify the common equity. Let me educate you on a new way to build a company. So I would say you want to boil that down. It's a very disciplined growth strategy. We would rather coast and have a bulletproof balance sheet and a $75 billion company growing 30% a year than to stretch for capital or stretch for some kind of yield, but undermine the balance sheet and take on credit risk. Because, someone says, I'll give you $10 billion tomorrow, and it's senior to STRC. We just created volatility and we crumpled the credit of the instrument that is going to provide a comfortable retirement to 1 billion people. I don't want to be the dude that made a good trade that made 25 or made $50 billion by trading Bitcoin by using cheap corporate money. We don't want to be the company that made 25 or $50 billion or a Hail Mary, or maybe we lost it by whatever, borrowing money, however we can get it to buy Bitcoin. We want to be the company that provided a comfortable retirement to 1 billion people and changed the world.
All right. Will we read about this in history books in 20 plus years?
You'll read about it and you'll frickin' chuckle because you'll be like, I got screwed. Because Alan Farrington's hamster wheel is going to be spinning at 15% and he's going to be paying you 10. So this is everything I hate about this point in time in Bitcoin, is that it is all about Bitcoin for me, not for thee. Let me handle your Bitcoin. I'll give you a return. And that is going to end poorly for everybody who falls for it. He's a great storyteller. He's a great salesperson. He's doing what's right for his company. No shame in that. But you as an individual need to understand that if you take that bait, you're in the mousetrap. You need to hold Bitcoin, let it compound, and build your own sovereignty. Do not fall for a 10% fiat yield when inflation is going to go way beyond that over the next decade. This is your comfortable retirement is not going to be comfortable in 10 years. This is not how this works. This works great for Monster, not for you.
Bitcoin for corporations, maybe.
You need to get flat. You need to get out of debt. You need to start building savings in Bitcoin. You need to figure out how to feed yourself. You need to this is just like, this is a pitch that makes you feel like everything's going to be okay. The world is changing in dramatic ways. Are you going to have a job in the future? Is AI going to take it? Are you going to live off 10%, 5%, 7% yields when inflation's running at 15, 17, 18? No, you're going to want Bitcoin and gold, and you're going to want land, and you're going to want to be able to grow your own food. That's the only place where sovereignty is going to exist over the next 10, 20 years. And it sounds good, but you're being suckered.
All right. I'm with you. Let's move on. You gonna ask me about the digital euro?
Yeah, sure. I'll ask you about the digital euro. The ECB pushes ahead with the digital euro. The ECB's digital euro project moves into the next phase, tightening the link between money and state control under the banner of innovation. Do policymakers even understand the monster they're unleashing, or is this a case of widespread economic illiteracy among many? I think we've already answered that question.
Let's move on. But like, I will just, all I'm gonna say is they aim to be ready for potential first issuance of the digital euro during 2029.
2029?
Yeah. I'm reading their white paper here.
Euros.
So it's, I think they have all the intents to put everyone under financial surveillance through essential. I mean, this is literally look, the beginning of this. Okay. We are working with the national central banks of the euro area to look into the possible issuance of the digital euro. It would be a central bank digital currency, an electronic equivalent to cash, and it would complement banknotes and coins, giving people an additional choice about how to pay.
Okay,
this is very real.
Mark my words. The European Union is dying.
Yeah, and
the euro is dying.
This is
it's going to end up being a bunch of individual states again that are in alignment with the Western corridor.
Well, they're going to race to come into the dollar /
US.
Bitcoin.
It's done.
Hash dollar, hash power.
By 29, there will be no euro.
Yeah, everything will change by then. So let's move on. And it's not worth staying there. Literally and figuratively. Major Europe. Well, you're going to Europe next week, so you'll have fun in Amsterdam. Maybe you'll remember it. Maybe. Major European bank Nordea's epic turn to Bitcoin ETP. Once the major Nordic bank that banned employees from touching crypto, Nordea is now launching a Bitcoin-linked exchange-traded product for customers. Its first public embrace of digital assets. With Europe's MiCA rules now in force, is this the moment legacy Nordic finance officially crosses the Rubicon?
This is the moment.
Nothing changes.
God, look at everybody's going. This is a concerted global effort to consolidate everybody's Bitcoin into institutions.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And I
points.
regret ever being excited in 2017 and 18 when we were like, oh my God, we're going to get an ETF. Oh my God, it's going to go to 100,000. We were saying that back then. And now we got them.
Yeah.
We got lots of them.
The biggest attack on self-custody
horrific.
ever. In a way.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
So like.
It's great for grandma. No?
No, I don't think so.
You're right. No, in a way it isn't. Because grandma thinks she has Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
I mean,
like, hit like and subscribe if you're enjoying this.
We need
Center.
A major crash just to get everybody back into self-custody.
Yeah, let's rip through this next one. France. What's the question here?
France is Bitcoin week. Again, another sovereign nation gonna adopt Bitcoin.
Yep.
Reserve dreams and unproductive wealth taxes. Bitcoin Twitter spent all week cheering that France might buy 2% of the Bitcoin supply, while missing the fine print that lawmakers actually voted to tax it as unproductive wealth. Which one is it? Will crypto Twitter stop shitposting headlines and start reading past the first sentence?
Yeah, well, everyone's looking for hopium. It's been a lot of sideways action, and I think and they've been watching risk on assets fly compared to Bitcoin in a short time frame. So let's skip
it's like
this
so
one.
much of the shit on X is just a headline, and then when you read into it, half the time it's not even really about Bitcoin.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, there's outlets that specialize in that. I want to read a tweet before we get to any comments or Q&A if we have any. So this is from Ethan Brooks. I'm the CFO of a PE-backed company. I woke up to 19 emails from the CEO between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. Subject lines, thoughts, quick one, alignment. I stared at the ceiling and thought, he doesn't sleep. He just runs equity payouts at different EBITDA scenarios. By 8 a.m., I was already behind. The VP of Finance asked when we're sending the updated forecast. I said soon, even though I haven't opened the model in 2 weeks because I already know how it ends. At 10 a.m., the CEO told me we're hiring 12 heads, but cutting SG&A. I nodded, deleted the plan, and renamed the file Final V9 Approved. At lunch, I sat alone in my office, scrolling through emails that all started with just following up. By 1 p.m., the PE senior associate was replying to my updates before I could even finish reading the subject line. Every message started with quick thought and ended with another model version request. At 3 p.m., he called, wanted an EBITDA bridge that inspires confidence. I moved numbers until it looked believable. He said, not good enough. The MD wants EBITDA to double by year end. I said, copy that. Then I stared at the spreadsheet and thought, so do I. By 6 p.m., I was writing words like momentum, synergies, and runway into a deck that means nothing. I closed my laptop, looked at my reflection, and reminded myself, we all know it isn't real, but it has to look like it is until someone buys it.
Fuck. There's the hamster wheel.
Yeah, the fiat hamster wheel. Yeah.
At large. And that is like so much
of the economic activity right now.
Economic activity. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Well said.
And it's going to stop.
Dude, I don't know what to tell people. I don't
think you should tell them anything. We don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to happen, but you do know that we're in a global reset. We're in a restructuring. We're in a monetary fiat debasement phase. That's how the debt gets restructured, right? So just simple. Most of the sovereign nations in the world are crushed by debt, except for Russia and China. China, because they have a lot of debt, but they don't have a central bank. Okay, so China and Russia are going to be okay. Everybody else is totally fucked. And the only way to save themselves is massive inflation, to debase the currency and devalue the debt. If you live in one of those countries and you live your life on one of those currencies, you need gold and you need Bitcoin. And Bitcoin will be the fastest horse in the race, as Paul Tudor Jones loves to say. If you don't have that yet, you've got a very short period of time to get your shit together. This is coming hard.
Basically, also fast. What we're saying is, depending on what sort of your economic context you live in, whether there's some countries maybe $100 is a lot of money, but gold is basically like an ETF. Like you can't take possession of gold.
So don't look at the price. Like you cannot look at the price. You have to look at it as like the only thing that will transfer value to the new system.
But also the only thing that you can take self-custody of.
Yes.
And so gold is not that.
Well,
it's really hard to take
a lot of gold in self-custody. Yes.
So as your size of wealth goes up, gold sort of like
I don't know, 50% of the population, a gold coin.
99% of the population. Yes.
Right.
Right. I agree with that.
One gold coin.
Yes, I agree.
So all I'm getting at is that if you look back in history and you study these types of transitions, the only thing that made it to the other side was these hard assets. Now we have the most hard asset ever created, which is Bitcoin. If you can get that and get it in self-custody and take it with you to whatever new system is set up in your country, you're going to be better off than if you do nothing.
You know, some of the paradoxes, some of what it takes to understand Bitcoin is not necessarily the same skills to take self-custody of Bitcoin.
True.
Right. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch.
It's not that complicated.
Not that complicated, but it's not the same skill set. It's not necessarily the same problem solved.
Like I'm not technical.
Meaning if someone is trying to not be debased, that's not an argument for self-custody per se. It leads to self-custody, meaning like part of the way.
Well, history would inform you, right? If you look back through history, people that had their gold,
but through price exposure in the Bitcoin ETF, but if they're not thinking about the counterparty risk, and they're just thinking about the debasement risk.
Yeah, but
it's two different skill sets and knowledge sets.
The problem
to accomplish both to get into self-custody. I'm just trying to acknowledge that.
No, I get it. But the problem is, and if you really look at history, when these events transpire, governments will do whatever they take to retain power and control relative to other governments around them, right? So you have the Goliaths up here in the stadium fighting,
right,
for their little bit of control and survival, and they don't care if they step on us to survive.
Right.
They don't care if they crush us. So you need to get your hard assets, get out of Dodge, hunker down, and get ready for some shit to go down, because it's coming. History shows us it's coming. And they're going to do everything along the way to tell you, like, Bitcoin's not doing so good. It's down. They're going to shake you out of it so they can accumulate more. Right. They're gonna tell you stories like it's that guy's the problem or that country's the problem. Right. We got your back. All these things. These are common tropes that coincide with these resets, and you have to ignore all the BS. And you have to look at what happens throughout history. Get your hard assets, get safe, get low over your skis, and just wait it out.
Right. Guns, goats, and get your Bitcoin in self-custody.
Sats,
the 3 Gs.
What sats, steers, and swords.
Yeah. And whiskey. I don't know. All right. I think that was another epic show. If we don't have any questions or comments, we'll roll out. This is BitcoinCenter. Like and subscribe, brought to you by Byte Federal.
I can't see the question.
All right, yeah, this is from Libin Franks. Yes, but this will take some time. My plan is stacked for 10 years, and fingers crossed, my Bitcoin savings will carry me and my family through. Definitely, word up. Best of luck.
I think that's great. I would say 5 years, not 10.
What, to get to like 2032?
Yeah, you need to get. Yeah, wow. I mean, even by then, I think it'll be
130.
I mean, I would accelerate your purchases as much as possible.
You're talking about your DCA plan.
Yeah. If you're doing a DCA over the next 10 years, try and figure out how to do it in 5. I mean, the shit is coming. It's here. Like the governments are preparing.
Yeah, but even after 5 years, your labor is your way of DCAing into.
Yeah, but your pay, your compensation is not going to grow as fast as inflation.
Yeah, no.
So your ability, and Bitcoin could be going up in price. So your ability to acquire Bitcoin is going to decelerate.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that, something along the lines of like everyone talks about the house, the house is going down in sats or Bitcoin, but your salary is.
Yeah.
And it's like if someone's making 50 grand a year, well, 5 years ago that could have bought 5 or 10 Bitcoin, and now they're working for half a Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
And if that person bought 5 or 10 Bitcoin at 100 or 1,000 or 10,000,
front load your DCA. That's as much as possible, and but still have that long term time horizon. I think that 10-year time horizon.
Well, I think it gets weird,
but front load your DCA.
But just think about like when at some point, and this is where everyone at some point was working for 10 Bitcoin for a year's worth of work. Right, like let's say Bitcoin's at $10,000.
Yeah, you made 100 grand.
You made 100 grand. That's 10 Bitcoin. That doesn't mean you get to save every dollar you make.
Yeah,
right. But if that person at some point bought or stacked 10 Bitcoin, let's say, and that 10 Bitcoin is now worth $1 million, well, now they're working for 0.1 or 10% of their stack. I mean, just so interesting that arc.
Yeah, no,
where
100%.
It prices you out of almost work you might even love.
That's why I get so excited when Bitcoin drops. Because
well, your purchasing power goes up from your income.
Yes,
your fiat income becomes more valuable.
And
if you understand the horizon of it, you're like, this is a short-term opportunity to maximize my fiat income. Yeah, I know. All right. Well, thank you for writing that in.
Yep. Well,
really appreciate it.
That's all we got.
That's all out. BitcoinCenter brought to you by Byte Federal. Go bank yourself.
Thank you for joining us.
See you next week, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.